something happening here. But what it is ain't exactly clear.
The social revolution of the 1960s shook up America and gave us the landmark 1964 Civil Rights Act, barring discrimination. But protests continued over the war in Vietnam, voting rights, and women's rights.
I am woman, hear me roar.
Finally, a Supreme Court decision in 1971 strengthened the right of women to hold jobs traditionally held by men. The FCC also was putting pressure on broadcast companies to hire women and minorities in radio and television newsrooms. And so, women began to get a foot in the door of newsrooms around the country. It was also the blossoming of television news itself, higher ratings, and more attention to serious journalism. Everybody wanted to break big stories like Watergate, but while those major stories weren't always available, women certainly didn't shy away from the hard stuff.
How do you think this report will affect your credibility, Governor? Because the report says that you were dishonest.
Good evening. That whole notion of so-called separate but equal public facilities is against the law. But that apparently isn't bothering a Kaufman man who runs a laundromat for whites only. Kay Vinson looked into the matter.
They were young, college-educated, ambitious women entering newsrooms around the country, sometimes enduring sexual harassment and lower pay, but persisting nonetheless.
We were not welcome.
And you had to, be better than all of them, but they never gave you credit for it.
It was the men who were hanging on to their jobs.
And I think I cried all the way home.
Some have written memoirs and become famous on a national scale, but most have either continued to work in the local and network news, raise families, start new careers, retire, or sadly, some have died. But they were all pioneers in the field of journalism just blossoming in the early 1970s. They shouldn't be forgotten, and their stories are worth recording.
We survived it, we excelled.
I guess the best way to describe it is if you let the inmates run the asylum for a while. We had so much fun.
The energy of women in early TV news and the path they created for others.